The email arrived at midnight with an empty subject line. Inside was a single grainy photo, me, standing in my kitchen yesterday, holding the knife I'd used to make dinner. Below it, one line of text: "Choose your next move carefully, Detective Marshall." My hands trembled as I deleted it, but I knew it was too late. After 15 years of hiding, they had finally found me. And this time, the blood on my hands wouldn't wash away so easily. 15 years ago, I was Detective Sarah Marshall, the youngest homicide detective in the precinct's history. Now, I'm just Sarah Chen, a middle school art teacher, wife to a local pediatrician, and mother to twin 12-year-olds who've never known their mom as anything but the woman who makes terrible dad jokes while helping with science projects. I traded in my badge and gun for paintbrushes and pottery wheels, thinking I could bury the past under layers of suburban normalcy. I'm good at helping troubled kids find their voice through art. It's my way of making amends, I suppose. But every time I pick up a knife, even just to cut vegetables for dinner, my hands remember their old steadiness. Some skills you never forget, no matter how hard you try. My last case as Detective Marshall still haunts the precinct's cold case files. 3 dead bodies, each posed like Renaissance paintings, each holding a piece of a puzzle that was meant just for me. I solved it, of course, that's what made me good at my job. But the solution led to places the department wasn't ready to go, to names that appeared in campaign donor lists and charity ball photographs. The kind of names that could make evidence disappear and witnesses recant their statements overnight. The art classroom where I now spend my days couldn't be further from that world. The walls are splashed with student masterpieces, the air thick with the earthy smell of clay and the sharp tang of acrylic paint. My current mysteries involve figuring out why Jake Martinez's watercolors always turn muddy, and how Amy Chen, no relation, manages to sneak her phone into class despite my best efforts. David, my husband, thinks the nightmares have finally stopped. He's wrong, but I let him believe it. It's easier than explaining why I still check the locks 3 times each night, or why I installed a security system that would make most police stations envious. The twins, Michael and Mai, think it's just mom being overprotective. That's fine too. Better they worry about their upcoming science fair project than about why their mother keeps a go bag hidden in the garage. I thought I was being paranoid. 15 years is a long time to look over your shoulder. Long enough that I'd almost convinced myself that they'd forgotten about the detective who came too close to the truth. Almost. Then came the email with the photo, and I realized that some cases never really close. They just wait for the right moment to reopen themselves. I was cleaning brushes after my last class when my phone buzzed again. Another email, this time with an attachment, a police evidence photo I hadn't seen in 15 years. The victim's hand clutched a paintbrush, her fingernails stained with oils in shades of vermilion and cobalt blue. My stomach lurched. I knew what was coming next before I scrolled down, 3 more photos, each showing a different victim posed in death to match a famous painting. My old case files, supposedly sealed and buried in the department's archives. The message below was simple: art imitates life, doesn't it, detective? Check your classroom storage closet. My hands were steady as I grabbed the X-Acto knife from my desk. Some instincts never fade. The storage closet was at the back of my classroom, past rows of student easels still speckled with today's projects. The lock was untouched, but that meant nothing to someone skilled enough to find me after all these years. I opened the door slowly, knife raised. The closet looked normal at first: stacks of paper, bottles of paint, bags of clay. Then I saw it, propped against my supply shelf, a small canvas, still wet. The painting was amateur work, but I recognized the scene instantly. It showed my twins walking to school this morning, their backpacks bright against the gray morning light. In the background, barely visible, stood a figure holding a camera. My phone rang, making me jump. It was David. Hey, love, he said, his voice cheerful. I'm picking up the twins from robotics club. Want me to grab takeout on the way home? I stared at the painting, at the threat so carefully crafted into every brushstroke. Actually, I said, keeping my voice casual, why don't you take the kids to your sister's place? I have to stay late for a faculty meeting, might be hours. Everything okay? You sound tense. Fine, I lied, already moving to my desk where I kept my emergency burner phone. Just end of semester stress. After we hung up, I pulled up my last unsent text to a number I'd memorized years ago, Romeo Hotel 459. Collection needed. My old handler's extraction code. I hadn't used it in 15 years and wasn't even sure if the number still worked. But as I looked at the painting of my children, I knew my carefully constructed new life was over. The phone buzzed one final time. Ready to finish what you started, detective? This time, try not to let anyone else die for your mistakes. My old handler, Agent Lin, picked up on the first ring. I was wondering when you'd call. Her voice hadn't changed, still that same mix of steel and silk. The paintings have started again. Not just the paintings, I said, securing my classroom door. They found me. More importantly, they found my family. You've been compromised. I'll have a team at your location in. No. I cut her off, already pulling up the school's security cameras on my laptop. No teams. The last time we tried that, 3 agents ended up dead. This is personal. This was always personal, Sarah. That's what made it so dangerous. Lynn paused. The Cooper Gallery is opening a new exhibition tomorrow night. Renaissance works. Someone went to a lot of trouble to get certain pieces included. My blood ran cold. Which pieces? The same ones your victims were posed to match 15 years ago. I pulled up the gallery's website, and there they were, the 3 paintings that had haunted my dreams for years. But something was different. In each image, barely noticeable unless you knew what to look for, there were small alterations. A shadow that shouldn't be there. A reflection showing something just out of frame. A pattern in the background that formed numbers when you looked closely enough. They're not just threatening me, I realized, zooming in on the details. They're leaving a trail. They want me to follow it. It's a trap, Lynn said flatly. Obviously. I started gathering my things, muscle memory from my detective days taking over. But they have surveillance photos of my kids. They could have hurt them already, but they didn't. They want something else. The original case files, Lynn said quietly. The ones that disappeared the night you left. I froze halfway through packing my go bag. Those files were destroyed. I destroyed them myself. Did you? All of them? Before I could answer, my classroom lights flickered. On my laptop, the security camera feeds went dark one by one. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number, time for your next art lesson, detective. Your old friend Marcus would love to teach you, if he were still alive. Marcus. My former partner. The official report said he died in a car accident 2 months after I disappeared. I never believed it. Sarah? Lynn's voice brought me back. What aren't you telling me? I stared at the painting of my twins, the mysterious figure in the background now seeming to watch me too. The night everything went wrong, Marcus and I made copies. Insurance. He hid his set, I hid mine. Dead man's switch, if anything happened to either of us, the other would know where to look. And when Marcus died, I never looked, I admitted, shame burning in my throat. I was too focused on protecting my new life, my family. I convinced myself it was over. Where would he have hidden them? Another text buzzed through. Ask yourself, detective, what kind of art teacher doesn't visit museums? The Cooper Gallery misses you. You have until the exhibition opens tomorrow night. For every hour you're late, we'll add another body to your collection. Maybe start with that lovely husband of yours? My hands shook as I read the message. On my laptop screen, a new email appeared. The attachment was a video of David's pediatric office, filmed from across the street. The twin sitting in his car, waiting while he locked up. I have to go, I told Lynn, already heading for the door. Sarah, wait. You're not a detective anymore. You're not trained for. No, I agreed, checking the X-Acto knife in my pocket. I'm a mother now. That makes me much more dangerous. The school halls were silent as I made my way out, but I felt eyes on me everywhere. In the reflection of a trophy case, I caught a glimpse of movement, someone following, staying just out of sight. In the parking lot, a car I didn't recognize was parked next to mine. On its windshield was a manila envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper, handwritten in familiar handwriting. Marcus's handwriting. Dear Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm dead. And if you're reading this now, they've finally found you. The files aren't what they seem. The paintings, the poses, it was never about the art. Look deeper. Remember what you taught me about negative space? What isn't there tells the real story. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you better. Don't make my mistakes. Don't try to save everyone. Just save what matters most. Below his signature was a series of numbers. Gallery coordinates, maybe, or a code. My hands traced the paper, feeling indentations from his pen. Marcus had pressed hard when writing, leaving a message beneath the message. My phone buzzed again, tick-tock, detective. Your husband just finished his last appointment. Should we show him what his wife is? Or should we show your children first? I looked at the security camera watching the school parking lot. Slowly, deliberately, I held up the letter so they could see it. Then I ripped it to pieces, letting them scatter in the wind. The response was immediate, bad choice. Check your email. The new message contained a video attachment. The timestamp showed it was from 15 years ago. The footage was grainy, but I recognized the scene instantly, the night everything went wrong. The night I thought I'd buried forever. Only this version showed something my memories didn't. Something that changed everything I thought I knew about that night. And in the background, watching it all happen, was someone who should have been dead. Marcus. The Cooper Gallery's opening night gala was in full swing when I arrived. Through the glass facade, I could see the social elite of the city mingling beneath crystal chandeliers, their conversations punctuated by the soft strain of classical music. Just like 15 years ago, when I'd first connected the dots between the murders and this very gallery. My phone buzzed. Lovely dress, detective. Black always was your color. They were watching, then. Good. I adjusted the small transmitter hidden in my necklace, Lynn's one concession to my insistence on handling this alone. My burner phone held the photos I'd taken of Marcus's letter before destroying it, the hidden indentations now revealed, coordinates within the gallery and one cryptic message. The negative space holds the truth. Mrs. Chen. The gallery owner's voice boomed across the marble floor as I entered. Richard Cooper III, heir to the Cooper fortune and board member of a dozen charitable foundations. 15 years ago, I'd suspected him of being involved, but could never prove it. We've missed you at our events. The children's art program hasn't been the same without your expertise. His smile was perfect, practiced. The same smile he'd worn in his alibi photos the night of the third murder. I've been busy, I replied, accepting a champagne flute I had no intention of drinking. Teaching takes all my time these days. Yes, I heard. Those lucky students. He gestured to the main exhibition hall. We have some new acquisitions I think you'll find fascinating. The Renaissance collection, in particular. My phone vibrated again. A photo, David and the twins in our kitchen, taken through the window. The timestamp showed it was from 2 minutes ago. "If you'll excuse me," I said, already moving toward the exhibition. Cooper's eyes followed me, his smile never wavering. The 3 paintings were mounted on the far wall, spot-lit and surrounded by velvet ropes. Even after 15 years, the sight of them made my hands shake. The Caravaggio, the Rembrandt, the Botticelli, each one matched a murder scene perfectly. Except. I moved closer, studying the shadows, the backgrounds, the seemingly random patterns. Just like in the digital versions, these had been altered. Subtle changes that formed a pattern, a message hidden in plain sight. "Beautiful, aren't they?" A woman's voice behind me. The interplay of light and shadow, the hidden meanings beneath the surface. I turned. She was elegant, silver-haired, wearing diamonds that could have funded a small country. I recognized her from the case files, Margaret Cooper, Richard's mother, and the gallery's true owner. "The alterations are particularly interesting," I said, watching her face carefully. "Almost like someone's trying to tell a story." "Stories are such dangerous things," she replied, her smile razor-sharp. "Especially old ones. Don't you agree, Detective Marshall?" Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a video call. David's face appeared, strained and frightened. "Sarah? There's someone here. They say they know you, that you're not who you..." The call cut off. Margaret's smile widened. "You have a choice to make, Detective. Your family, or the truth you've spent 15 years hiding from. The files Marcus hid, or your husband and children. You have 10 minutes. "Why?" I demanded, my voice raw. "Why now?" "Because art isn't just about beauty, my dear. It's about power. About who gets to decide which stories are told, and which are buried." She gestured to the paintings. "These pieces? They're worth millions. But the truth they're hiding? That's worth so much more." "The money laundering," I said, the old case clicking into place. "The gallery, the charitable foundations, they were all fronts. But Marcus found proof. Smart boy, Marcus. Too smart for his good." She checked her diamond-encrusted watch. 9 minutes now. The clock's ticking. I looked at the paintings again, at the subtle alterations. The negative space, Marcus had written. "What isn't there tells the real story." Then I saw it. In the shadows, in the spaces between the obvious clues, there was another message. Not coordinates or bank accounts, but something far more damning. Names. Dates. Connections that went all the way to. A gunshot cracked through the gallery. Screams erupted as guests fled toward the exits. Through the chaos, I saw Cooper approaching, a gun held casually at his side. "Time's up," Margaret said softly. "What's it going to be, Detective? The truth, or your family?" My phone buzzed one final time. A live video feed, David and the twins, zip-tied to kitchen chairs. A man stood behind them, his face hidden, holding something that glinted in the light. An X-Acto knife. Just like the one in my pocket. At that moment, I made the choice I should have made 15 years ago. I reached slowly into my pocket, pulling out my X-Acto knife. Margaret's smile widened as I held it up to the light. "A fitting choice," she said. "Family over truth. Just like last time." "No," I replied, turning the blade so it caught the gallery lights. "This time, I choose both." The knife's handle reflected something in the Botticelli's frame, a tiny camera lens. Just like the one in my classroom. Just like the ones that had been watching my family. "You're streaming this, aren't you?" I said, my voice steady. "Just like you streamed the murders 15 years ago. Private shows for very wealthy clients." Art appreciation is taken to its darkest extreme. Cooper's gun hand twitched. Mother. The paintings were never about the money laundering, I continued. They were advertisements. Proof of what you could provide to the right buyers. Murder as performance art. I touched my necklace, knowing Lynn and her team were hearing every word. Knowing the transmitter was recording everything. But Marcus figured it out, I said, watching Margaret's face. And when he did, you tried to kill him. Except he wasn't working alone. The gallery lights flickered, once, twice. Right on schedule. He was working with my partner, a voice called from the darkness. A voice I hadn't heard in 15 years. Marcus stepped out from behind a sculpture, very much alive, his gun trained on Cooper. Hello, Sarah. Sorry for the long wait. Margaret's composure cracked. You're dead. We saw the car crash. You saw what we wanted you to see, Marcus said. Just like your clients saw what they wanted in your little shows. The difference is, we've been recording everything. Every client, every transaction, every murder ordered like it was a piece of art. The negative space, I said softly, understanding finally clicking into place. The hidden camera feeds weren't just recording me. They were recording you. All these years, building the case we couldn't prove before. Cooper lunged for me, but I was already moving. 15 years of guilt and fear turned into pure adrenaline as I grabbed his gun arm, twisting it behind him with a skill I'd never truly forgotten. The gun clattered to the floor. Sarah. David's voice came through my phone, strong and clear. We're okay. The FBI just got them, Lynn's voice cut in through my earpiece. Your family's safe. We have teams at every location. And we have everything on camera. Margaret laughed, a hollow sound that echoed through the gallery. You think this ends with us? The clients, the buyers, they're everywhere. In every city, every country. You can't touch them. Maybe not, I agreed, keeping Cooper pinned. But we can make sure they never see another show. And we can make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of art you've been dealing with. Sirens wailed in the distance. Through the gallery windows, I could see red and blue lights approaching. The files, Cooper gasped. Where did you hide them? Marcus smiled. In the negative space, he said. Hidden in the gaps between surveillance feeds, in the metadata of every photo you took, every video you streamed. We didn't hide the evidence. We hid it inside your system. Like a watermark, I added, finally understanding the full scope of what Marcus had done. Hidden in plain sight, in every piece of art you've sold for the past 15 years. The truth was always there, waiting to be developed. Like a photograph in a darkroom. The gallery doors burst open as FBI agents flooded in. As they took Cooper and Margaret into custody, I caught my reflection in a gallery window. I saw both versions of myself, the detective I'd been, the teacher I'd become, and for the first time in 15 years, they didn't seem like separate people anymore. 3 months later, I stood in my classroom, watching my students work on their final projects. The morning sun streamed through the windows, catching dust motes and making them dance like stars. The Cooper Gallery scandal had rocked the art world, exposing a network that stretched across continents. Margaret and Richard Cooper would spend the rest of their lives in prison, along with dozens of their wealthy clients. Mom? Alyssa's voice pulled me from my thoughts. She stood in the doorway, Michael right behind her. We brought lunch. They settled at my desk, pulling out sandwiches and drinks. Neither of them had flinched when I finally told them the truth about my past. If anything, it had brought us closer. David too, he'd held me all night after my confession, whispering that he'd always known I was stronger than I appeared. Agent Lynn called, Michael said between bites. She wanted to know if you'd consider teaching a course at Quantico. Something about art crimes and investigation techniques. I smiled, looking at the student artwork around us. My life had changed, but this hadn't, my love for teaching, for helping young minds find their voice through art. I told her I'm happy where I am. But? Alyssa prompted, knowing me too well. But I agreed to consult. Part-time, remote only. I picked up an X-Acto knife, now used only for its intended purpose. Turns out you can be both things, a teacher and a detective. A mother and a fighter. The trick is not letting anyone else define the boundaries of who you are. My phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. He was back in the field, working with Lynn's team to dismantle what remained of the Cooper's network. Miss you, partner, it read. Stay artistic. I looked at my children, at my classroom full of creativity and hope, at the life I'd built that was stronger for having faced the truth. The past didn't feel like a weight anymore. It was just another layer of paint on the canvas, adding depth to the whole picture. Mom? Michael asked. Are you happy? With how everything turned out? Through the window, I could see David in the parking lot, early for our lunch date. In my pocket, my old badge sat next to my teacher's ID, not a contradiction anymore, but a compliment. Yeah, I said, and for the first time in 15 years, it was completely true. I am. 1 year later, I stood in the new student art gallery, surrounded by proud parents and beaming teenagers. The space that once housed the Cooper's darkest secrets now showcased hope and creativity. My students' work lined the walls, paintings, sculptures, digital art, each piece telling its own story of discovery and growth. In the center hung a collaborative piece, a triptych inspired by Renaissance masters, but reimagined through modern eyes. The placard beside it read, "The Space Between, an Exploration of Truth and Transformation." My family moved through the crowd, David discussing art therapy with colleagues, the twins explaining their contributions to younger students. Marcus and Lynn stood near the entrance, chatting with the school board about our new forensic arts program. I touched the badge in my pocket, then the paintbrush behind my ear. Some people spend their lives running from who they are. I spent 15 years trying to be one thing or the other. But the real masterpiece? It's in embracing all the colors that make you whole.